what about the ocean's allure makes us forget its dangers? How can a serene surf or a peaceful dive transform into a life-or-death battle against nature's most fearsome predators? In these 6 riveting stories, we'll explore the razor-thin line between survival and tragedy, from the icy waters of Alaska to the treacherous depths of Peru. Each tale reveals the ocean's unforgiving power, where beauty and danger coexist in a relentless, unpredictable dance. In early January 2024, 26-year-old Ryan Edwards set out for an early morning surf session off the rugged coast of Northern California. Surfing had been Ryan's passion for as long as he could remember. Growing up in the small town of Crescent City, nestled along the wild Pacific coast, he had spent countless hours riding the waves, feeling at home in the powerful embrace of the ocean. The waves in this part of the state were known for their size and intensity, attracting surfers from all over, but also carrying the inherent risks of the territory. Ryan was no stranger to the dangers of the sea. The area was infamous for occasional shark sightings, and there had been stories of close encounters, though actual attacks were rare. Like many surfers, Ryan knew these risks but chose not to dwell on them. For him, the thrill of surfing, the freedom it brought, and the connection he felt to the ocean far outweighed any fears. The sea was his sanctuary, where he could escape the pressures of everyday life and find peace in the rhythm of the waves. On the morning of January 12th, the conditions were perfect. The air was cool and crisp, with a light fog hanging over the water, typical of Northern California's coastline. The ocean was calm, with a steady swell producing clean, rolling waves that beckoned to be ridden. Ryan, always an early riser, was eager to take advantage of the solitude and the ideal surf conditions. As he paddled out beyond the breakers, he felt a sense of exhilaration, the familiar rush of excitement that came with the anticipation of catching the perfect wave. The beach was nearly empty at that hour, with only a few other surfers scattered along the shore enjoying the quiet morning. Ryan paddled farther out, finding a spot where the waves formed beautifully. The water was cold, but he barely noticed, focused entirely on the ocean's movements. As he sat on his board waiting for the next set of waves, he couldn't help but feel a deep connection to the sea, a bond forged over years of surfing these very waters. However, as Ryan waited, he began to notice something unusual. The water around him seemed to grow still, the normal rhythm of the ocean interrupted by an unsettling calm. He glanced around, his instincts kicking in, but saw nothing unusual. The fog made it difficult to see too far in any direction, but he tried to shake off the unease creeping over him. Without warning, the water's surface exploded as a massive great white shark, estimated at 16 feet long, surged up from the depths below. The shark clamped its powerful jaws around Ryan's surfboard, dragging him and the board underwater with terrifying force. The impact was so sudden and violent that Ryan barely had time to react. The force of the shark's attack split the surfboard in half, sending pieces of it scattering across the water. Now separated from his board and desperately trying to understand what had happened, Ryan fought to reach the surface. The icy water and the shock of the attack made it difficult to think clearly, but his survival instincts kicked in as he began to swim frantically toward the shore. Seeing the attack unfold from a distance, the other surfers started paddling toward him, shouting warnings and trying to reach him before it was too late. The ocean, which had been a source of joy and freedom for Ryan, had turned into a nightmare in an instant. Ryan's desperate swim toward the shore was a fight for his life. The frigid water and the overwhelming fear made each stroke feel like an eternity. He could see the other surfers paddling toward him, but the distance seemed insurmountable. The great white shark, however, was not finished. It circled back, its instincts driving it to complete the attack. Ryan felt a sudden, immense force as the shark struck again, pulling him under the water once more. Once familiar and welcoming, the ocean now felt like a vast, dark void, a place of terror and pain. The other surfers, now much closer, watched in horror as Ryan was dragged beneath the waves. They pushed forward with all their strength, knowing that every second counted. As they reached the spot where Ryan had gone under, the water around them was tinged with red, a stark reminder of the brutality of the attack. The surfers used their boards to try and fend off the shark, splashing and kicking to scare it away. After what felt like an eternity, the shark finally released Ryan, disappearing back into the depths as quickly as it had appeared. Ryan was pulled from the water, unconscious and severely injured. His friends, shaking with fear and exhaustion, quickly paddled him back to the shore. The beach, once peaceful and serene, was now a scene of chaos as they frantically tried to save his life. Ryan's injuries were severe, with deep lacerations from the shark's powerful jaws. Blood loss was extensive, and he was barely clinging to life. An emergency call was made as soon as they reached the shore. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but it felt like hours to those who had witnessed the attack. Ryan was rushed to the nearest hospital in Crescent City, where doctors and nurses were ready to do everything they could to save him. The emergency room was a flurry of activity as medical staff worked to stabilize Ryan, treating his wounds and trying to stop the bleeding. The atmosphere was tense, with everyone fully aware of the gravity of the situation. Despite the medical team's best efforts, the injuries were too severe. Ryan succumbed to his wounds shortly after arriving at the hospital. The news spread quickly through the beach community, leaving everyone in shock and mourning. The ocean, which had brought so much joy to Ryan and so many others, had also taken away a life brutally and unexpectedly. The local community came together in the following days to honor Ryan's memory. Memorials were held on the beach where he had spent many happy hours surfing. His friends and family shared stories of his love for the ocean and the passion that had driven him to spend every possible moment in the water. The tragedy also sparked a renewed focus on the risks of surfing in shark-infested waters. Discussions about safety measures and awareness became more prevalent, with many surfers re-evaluating the balance between the thrill of the waves and the dangers that lurked beneath. Ryan's death was a heartbreaking reminder of nature's unpredictable power. His story served as a cautionary tale for the entire surfing community, highlighting the need for respect and caution in the face of the ocean's immense and sometimes deadly power. In early February 2024, Amy Collins set out on what she expected to be a peaceful and exhilarating dive in the crystal-clear waters of the Caribbean. At 32 years old, Amy was an experienced diver who had traveled the world exploring some of the most breathtaking underwater environments. Growing up near the coast of Florida, she developed a deep passion for the ocean from a young age. Amy was particularly excited about this dive. She had planned the trip to the Caribbean to explore its vibrant coral reefs, known for their dazzling array of marine life. The dive site, located off the coast of Grand Cayman, was renowned among divers for its pristine conditions, and the opportunity to see everything from colorful fish to majestic sea turtles. For Amy, the chance to immerse herself in this underwater paradise was the culmination of months of anticipation. The morning of February 4th was perfect for diving. The sun was shining brightly and the sea was calm, with gentle waves lapping against the side of the boat as Amy prepared her gear. The dive crew, experienced and friendly, reviewed the safety protocols one last time before the divers plunged into the warm, inviting water. As Amy descended, she felt the familiar sense of wonder and excitement that always accompanied her dives. The visibility was excellent, allowing her to see the intricate details of the coral formations and the myriad of fish that darted in and out of the crevices. Amy was in her element, wholly absorbed in the beauty around her. She moved slowly, careful not to disturb the fragile coral, as she admired the vibrant colors and the diversity of marine life. The tranquility of the underwater world was mesmerizing, and time seemed to stand still as she explored the reef. The other divers in the group were nearby, equally captivated by the sights, but Amy had drifted slightly away from them, lost in the moment. Amy suddenly felt a sharp, searing pain in her leg as she swam near a vast and colorful coral formation. It was so unexpected and intense that it took her a moment to comprehend what was happening. When she looked down, her heart skipped a beat. A large barracuda had latched onto her calf, its razor-sharp teeth sinking deep into her flesh. The fish's sleek silver body shimmered in the water, reflecting the sunlight that filtered through the surface. Barracudas are known for their aggressive nature and lightning-fast strikes, often mistaking shiny objects for prey. Amy's dive gear, with its reflective surfaces, had likely attracted the fish, leading it to attack with brutal force. The pain was excruciating, and panic began to set in as she realized the severity of her situation. Blood began to cloud the water around her, a terrifying sight that heightened her fear. The barracuda showed no signs of letting go. Its mighty jaws clamped tightly around her leg. Amy knew she had to act quickly. The thought of attracting even larger predators from the depths with the scent of blood drove her to fight through the pain and terror. She struggled to free herself, kicking with her other leg and using her hands to try and push the fish away. The barracuda, relentlessly attacking, continued to bite, causing deep gashes in her leg. Amy's heart raced as she fought against the mighty predator while trying to return to the boat. The safety of the surface felt impossibly far away, but she knew it was her only chance of survival. Amy's struggle against the barracuda was a desperate battle for survival. The sharp pain in her leg intensified with every bite, but she forced herself to remain focused. The fear of attracting more predators, drawn by the scent of her blood in the water, pushed her to fight harder. She kicked furiously with her free leg, each movement sending a surge of pain through her body. Her heart pounded as she managed to pry the fish's jaws open just enough to free her leg. But the barracuda remained aggressive, circling her as if preparing for another strike. With a deep breath, Amy gathered the last of her strength and began to swim toward the boat. The distance seemed daunting, her leg throbbing with every stroke, but she knew she couldn't afford to stop. The water around her was still tinged with blood, and she feared what might be lurking in the depths below. Every second felt like an eternity as she pushed herself forward, her vision narrowing as the pain threatened to overwhelm her. The other divers, alerted by the commotion and the sight of blood in the water, quickly realized what had happened. They began to swim toward Amy, their concern growing as they saw her struggling to stay afloat. The boat's dive crew, noticing the water's distress, sprang into action. They threw a line toward Amy, urging her to grab hold. She reached out with trembling hands, finally grasping the line and feeling a wave of relief wash over her as she was pulled toward the boat. The crew worked quickly to get her out of the water, lifting her onto the deck where she collapsed in exhaustion. Her leg was covered in deep wounds, the flesh torn and bleeding heavily. The crew immediately applied pressure to the wounds to stop the bleeding as they called for emergency medical assistance. The once peaceful dive had turned into a frantic race against time to save Amy's life. The boat sped back to shore, heading for the nearest hospital in Georgetown, Grand Cayman. Amy drifted in and out of consciousness, her body weak from the blood loss and the shock of the attack. The crew kept her awake, talking to and reassuring her as they rushed to get her the needed help. The ride back seemed endless, but eventually the boat reached the dock where an ambulance was waiting. At the hospital, Amy was rushed into surgery. The doctors worked tirelessly to repair the damage caused by the barracuda's vicious attack. Her injuries were severe, but thanks to the quick actions of the dive crew, she had made it to the hospital in time. The road to recovery would be long and complex, with months of physical therapy ahead. But Amy's determination and strength, which had carried her through the attack, would help her heal. In late March 2024, David Thompson, a 34-year-old adventure enthusiast, found himself on a remote beach in northern Australia. Known for its stunning, untouched landscapes, this region was a favorite among those who sought solitude and the raw beauty of nature. David had always been drawn to places where he could escape the bustle of city life and immerse himself in the wild. David had planned this trip meticulously, eager to explore the rugged coastline and the unique ecosystems that thrived there. A software developer by profession, he often used his vacations to disconnect from technology and reconnect with nature. This trip was meant to be a time of reflection and relaxation, a chance to recharge in one of Earth's most beautiful and remote places. On the morning of March 22nd, David set out early, eager to take advantage of the incredible, quiet hours before the day's heat set in. The beach he had chosen was far from any town or tourist area, a secluded spot that offered nothing but the sound of waves and the call of distant seabirds. The water looked calm and inviting, its surface shimmering under the rising sun. David, who had always been confident in his swimmer abilities, decided to dip in the clear waters. The cool water was refreshing as he waded into the ocean, perfectly contrasting with the warm sand beneath his feet. David swam out a short distance, enjoying the sensation of the water against his skin and the peacefulness of the empty beach. The moment's beauty made him forget the potential dangers that could lurk beneath the surface. With its wild and untamed nature, Northern Australia was also home to some of the world's most dangerous animals, including the infamous saltwater crocodile. These crocodiles, known for their immense size and power, were apex predators in these waters. They could stay submerged for long periods, their stealth making them nearly invisible to unsuspecting prey. Unfortunately, David had unknowingly ventured into the territory of one of these massive reptiles. As David swam, he suddenly felt something brush against his leg. It was a fleeting sensation, but enough to jolt him out of his peaceful reverie. He paused, looking around, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. The water was calm, the beach still and silent. However, the water around him exploded within seconds as a massive saltwater crocodile lunged from the depths. Its powerful jaws clamped down on David's torso with incredible force, the sheer power of the bite leaving him breathless. Following its predatory instincts, the crocodile began its signature death roll, dragging David under the water in a terrifying spiral of force and fury. David's peaceful swim had turned into a nightmare in an instant. The crocodile's strength was overwhelming, and David felt helpless against the predator's force. As the crocodile continued its deadly attack, the serene beach became the backdrop for a desperate struggle for survival, one that would test every ounce of David's strength and will to live. David's struggle against the crocodile was a terrifying fight for his life. The sheer power of the creature as it performed its death roll left him disoriented and gasping for air. The water around him churned with force as the crocodile attempted to subdue him, dragging him deeper into the depths. Each roll intensified the pressure on David's body, crushing his ribs and making it nearly impossible to breathe. He tried to fight back, kicking and thrashing with all his strength, but the crocodile's grip was unyielding. The crocodile, driven by instinct, was relentless in its attack, using its immense power to drag David further from the shore. The weight of the predator and the force of the rolls left David with little chance to escape. As the crocodile continued its attack, the struggle became increasingly desperate. David's strength was fading, and the pain from the crushing jaws was overwhelming. The crocodile's strategy was brutal and efficient, designed to drown its prey before consuming it. With each passing second, David's chances of survival grew slimmer. Now a deadly battleground, the water was filled with the terrifying presence of one of nature's most fearsome predators. Back on the beach, no one could witness the attack or call for help. The remote location that David had chosen for its solitude now contributed to the tragedy, as no one was nearby to intervene or raise the alarm. The crocodile's grip remained tight as it continued to drag David into deeper water, far from the safety of the shore. Despite his determination to survive, the overwhelming force of the attack was too much for him to overcome. By the time the crocodile finally released its grip, David was unconscious, his body battered and lifeless. Having subdued its prey, the beast slowly retreated into the depths, leaving the once peaceful beach eerily quiet. Hours it was past before anyone realized that something had gone wrong. When David failed to return to his campsite, a search was launched, but it was too late. His body was eventually recovered, a tragic reminder of the dangers that lurk in the wild. The news of David's death sent shockwaves through the local community and beyond. Northern Australia, known for its rugged beauty, was also where nature's power demanded respect. The incident served as a grim reminder of the risks involved in venturing into such remote and untamed environments. In the aftermath, there were calls for increased awareness of the dangers posed by saltwater crocodiles, especially in areas frequented by tourists and adventurers. The tragedy highlighted the need for caution and respect for the natural world, where even inattention could lead to devastating consequences. In mid-April 2024, John Miller and his close friends embarked on an adventurous kayaking expedition off the coast of Peru. John, a 29-year-old marine biology enthusiast, had always been fascinated by the ocean and its mysterious inhabitants. Growing up near the coast of California, he had spent much of his life exploring the sea, diving into its depths and learning about the creatures that called it home. This trip to Peru was extraordinary for him, as it allowed him to explore the Pacific Ocean's deep waters, which are rich in marine life and known for their vibrant underwater ecosystems. John's friends Alex, Michael, and Sarah shared his love for the ocean. They had planned this expedition for months, eager to experience the beauty of the Peruvian coastline and the thrill of kayaking in its deep, expansive waters. The group had rented kayaks from a local outfitter and set out early one morning, excited to spend the day paddling through the calm blue waters. The weather was perfect, with clear skies and a gentle breeze that made the ocean seem inviting and serene. The coastline of Peru, known for its stunning cliffs and diverse marine habitats, provided a breathtaking backdrop for their journey. The group paddled along the coast, enjoying the peacefulness of the sea and the camaraderie that came with sharing such an experience. As they moved farther from the shore, the water became more profound, its color shifting from light turquoise to a darker, mysterious blue. The group was in high spirits, laughing and chatting as they navigated through the gentle waves. As the day progressed, they ventured further, eager to explore the ocean's depths. John, in particular, was thrilled at the prospect of encountering some of the ocean's larger inhabitants, such as dolphins, sea turtles, or even a passing whale. However, the deep waters of the Pacific held more than just the beauty of marine life. They also concealed dangers that few could anticipate. As they paddled through an intense section of the ocean, something unusual caught John's attention. Beneath the surface, a shadowy figure moved with surprising speed. Before he could react, the water around his kayak erupted as a giant Humboldt squid shot up from the depths. Humboldt squid, known locally as red devils, are notorious for their aggressive behavior and powerful tentacles. This squid, over 6 feet long, wrapped its tentacles around John's kayak, its grip tight and unyielding. The sudden attack sent shockwaves of fear through the group. The squid's powerful tentacles began pulling John's kayak into the water, causing it to capsize. John was thrown into the ocean, his heart racing as he met with the massive creature. The squid's sharp beak tore into his wetsuit, its eyes reflecting the dark, cold depths of the ocean. The peaceful expedition had become a chaotic struggle for survival, as John fought to free himself from the squid's relentless grip. John struggled in the water, his mind racing as he tried to escape the powerful grip of the Humboldt squid. The creature's solid and unyielding tentacles wrapped around his body, pulling him deeper into the cold, dark water. Every movement he made seemed futile against the sheer strength of the squid. His wetsuit, designed to protect him from the elements, offered little defense against the sharp beak now tearing into his flesh. The pain was intense, and fear began to take hold as he realized the danger he was in. Above the surface, John's friends were in a state of panic. They had witnessed the sudden attack and immediately sprang into action. Alex, Michael, and Sarah paddled furiously toward John, their kayaks cutting through the water as they tried to reach him before it was too late. Seeing their friend being dragged down by the massive squid filled them with a sense of urgency and dread. They knew they must act quickly to save him from the creature's relentless assault. They could see his struggle beneath the surface as they reached the spot where John had been pulled under. The water was churning with the squid's movement, creating a chaotic scene that made it difficult to get close. Despite the fear and uncertainty, Alex, the strongest swimmer in the group, dived into the water determined to help his friend. He could see the dark shape of the squid as it continued to pull John deeper, its tentacles thrashing in the water. Alex grabbed John's hold and began pulling him away from the squid using all his strength. The creature resisted, tightening its grip, but Alex refused to let go. With the help of Michael and Sarah, who were using their paddles to create a distraction at the surface, they finally managed to break the squid's hold on John. The moment felt like a small victory in an overwhelmingly one-sided battle. Once free, John was quickly pulled to the surface, gasping for air and bleeding from the wounds inflicted by the squid. His friends hauled him onto one of the kayaks, desperately trying to assess the extent of his injuries. The group paddled back to shore as fast as they could, every second feeling like an eternity as they watched John struggle to stay conscious. The beautiful, calm waters of the Pacific had turned into a scene of terror, and the only thought on everyone's mind was getting John to safety. When they finally reached the shore, John was rushed to the nearest hospital in Lima, Peru. The medical staff worked quickly to treat his injuries, which included deep gashes and puncture wounds from the squid's beak. The doctors were able to stabilize him, but the recovery would be long and painful. The physical wounds would eventually heal, but the psychological impact of the encounter would linger much longer. In the aftermath, John's experience became a story that spread through the local and international diving communities. The encounter with the Humboldt squid, a creature rarely seen by humans, highlighted the unpredictable and sometimes dangerous nature of the ocean's inhabitants. The incident left John with a deep fear of the ocean's darker depths, a place that had once been a source of joy and discovery. In May 2024, Mike Harris, a seasoned diver with over 2 decades of experience, set out for what he expected to be another routine exploration. At 45 years old, Mike had spent much of his life beneath the waves, fascinated by the mysteries of the deep sea. Based in Anchorage, Alaska, he had explored countless shipwrecks along the Alaskan coast, each dive fueling his passion for marine life and underwater archaeology. Mike was known for his meticulous planning and calm demeanor, traits that had served him well in the often unpredictable and dangerous waters of the North Pacific. On this particular day, Mike was diving in the cold, dark waters of Resurrection Bay, a well-known location for shipwrecks and diverse marine life. The bay near Seward was a popular spot for divers, but was also known for its challenging conditions. The water temperature hovered just above freezing, and the visibility was often poor due to the murky, sediment-filled water. Despite these challenges, Mike was excited about the day's dive. His target was a shipwreck he had visited before, a century-old vessel resting at the bottom of the bay, home to various marine creatures. Mike prepared for the dive with his usual precision, checking his gear thoroughly before entering the water. He knew the risks of diving in such conditions, but his experience gave him confidence. The descent was familiar, the water cold and dark, with only the beam of his dive light cutting through the gloom. As he approached the wreck, Mike felt the familiar thrill of anticipation. Now covered in a thick layer of marine growth, the ship was a haven for fish, crabs, and other sea life. Mike moved slowly, taking in the sights, his movements deliberate and controlled. As he explored the wreck, Mike focused on the small crevices and openings in the ship's hull. These were often home to more elusive creatures, and Mike was always looking for something new. As he reached a particularly narrow section of the wreck, he felt a sudden tight grip around his leg. It was a sensation unlike anything he had felt before, and it took a moment for him to comprehend what was happening. Looking down, Mike's heart skipped a beat. Wrapped around his leg was the unmistakable sight of the suction cups of a giant Pacific octopus. These creatures, known for their intelligence and strength, were masters of camouflage, often hiding in plain sight. The octopus, likely feeling threatened by Mike's presence, had lashed out, its powerful tentacles coiling around him with surprising force. The suction cups created a tight seal, making it nearly impossible for Mike to pull away. With its impressive size and strength, the octopus began to pull Mike closer to the shipwreck, towards a dark crevice that served as its lair. The creature's intentions were clear. It wanted to drag him into the narrow confines of the wreck where escape would be nearly impossible. Mike's mind raced as he realized the gravity of the situation. If the octopus succeeded in pulling him into the crevice, his chances of survival would be slim. The cold, dark waters that had once been his playground had suddenly become a terrifying trap, and Mike's fight for freedom had just begun. Mike's heart pounded as the giant Pacific octopus continued pulling him toward the shipwreck crevice. The creature's strength was astonishing, far greater than anything Mike had encountered in his years of diving. He knew he had to act quickly. His oxygen supply was limited and the cold water was sapping his energy. Every second counted as he struggled against the octopus's powerful grip. The suction cups on the tentacles adhered to his wetsuit, making it nearly impossible to break free. Mike reached for his dive knife, which had previously served him well in difficult situations. He knew cutting through the tentacles would be no easy task, but it was his only chance. With a determined effort, he began to slice at the tentacle wrapped around his leg. Sensing the threat, the octopus tightened its grip even further, pulling him closer to the dark crevice. The pressure on his leg was intense, but Mike kept working, his movements becoming more desperate as the octopus tried to drag him deeper into its lair. As Mike continued to fight, he felt the cold water pressing around him, the darkness of the shipwreck adding to the sense of claustrophobia. His dive light flickered, casting eerie shadows on the rusted metal of the wreck. The octopus's other tentacles began to reach out, trying to secure a stronger hold on him. Mike's breathing became more labored as his oxygen supply dwindled, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on him. Finally, with one last powerful slash, Mike cut through the tentacle, holding his leg. The octopus recoiled, momentarily stunned by the sudden release. Mike didn't waste a second. He kicked hard, pushing himself away from the wreck and the creature's grasp. The octopus, disoriented, retreated into the crevice, its lair offering it the safety and shelter it sought. Mike swam upward with all his strength, his lungs burning as he fought to reach the surface. As he ascended, the light from above grew brighter, a beacon of hope in the dark, cold water. Mike's thoughts were focused solely on reaching the surface, knowing that his survival depended on it. When he finally broke through the water's surface, he gasped for air, filling his lungs with the cold, fresh air of the Alaskan coast. He was exhausted, his body battered from the struggle, but he was alive. Mike quickly returned to his boat, his hands trembling as he hoisted aboard. The familiar surroundings of the ship brought a sense of relief, but the fear and adrenaline still coursed through his veins. He knew he had come dangerously close to losing his life in the depths of the Pacific. With its incredible strength and intelligence, the octopus had nearly succeeded in pulling him into a situation from which there would have been no escape. In the days that followed, Mike reflected on his harrowing experience. The encounter with the octopus left him with physical scars, but the psychological impact was even more profound. The ocean, a source of fascination and joy for many years, now held a darker, more dangerous allure. Mike knew he would continue to dive, but with a renewed respect for the creatures that inhabited the depths. In January 2024, Rob Mitchell, a seasoned fisherman with decades of experience, set out for what he expected to be a rewarding day of fishing in the remote waters of Shark Bay, Australia. Rob, who had spent much of his life along the coast, was no stranger to the challenges and dangers of the ocean. Born and raised in Perth, he developed a deep love for the sea at a young age, spending countless hours on the water with his father. Now in his late 50s, Rob was known for his skill and patience, often seeking out the most secluded spots where the fish were plentiful and the competition was scarce. Shark Bay, located on the western coast of Australia, was one of Rob's favorite fishing locations. The area, known for its rich marine biodiversity, provided a perfect setting for those who appreciated the solitude and beauty of the natural world. The waters were typically calm, and the surrounding landscape, with its pristine beaches and clear blue skies, made it an ideal place for an experienced fisherman like Rob to spend his time. On this particular day, Rob was eager to catch something big, hoping to bring home a trophy fish that would make the trip worthwhile. The water was murky, a common condition in Shark Bay, where the sandy bottom often stirred up silt. Rob was used to these conditions, his keen eyes scanning the water for any signs of movement. He cast his line and waited, the anticipation building as he imagined the fight that would come when a fish took the bait. As the minutes passed, Rob slowly moved through the water, focusing on his fishing line. He was thinking deeply, planning his next move, when he suddenly felt an intense, sharp pain in his leg. The pain was unlike anything he had ever experienced, immediate and excruciating. It took a moment for Rob to realize what had happened. A massive stingray buried in the sand beneath the surface had lashed out, striking him with its venomous barb. The stingray, likely startled by Rob's presence, had reacted with the speed and precision that made it one of the ocean's more dangerous creatures. Rob's leg throbbed with pain, and he collapsed into the water, the shock of the attack momentarily paralyzing him. The venom from the stingray's barb began to spread through his body, causing a burning sensation that intensified with each passing second. Rob's mind raced as he tried to comprehend the situation. He knew that stingray venom could be deadly, causing paralysis, intense pain, and even cardiac arrest if not treated quickly. The shallow waters that had seemed so safe moments before were now a deadly trap. The stingray, agitated and feeling threatened, circled back, its movements slow and deliberate. Struggling to stay conscious, Rob realized he had to escape the water before the stingray struck again. The pain in his leg was overwhelming, making it difficult to move. But he knew that his survival depended on reaching the shore as quickly as possible. With every ounce of strength he had left, Rob began to drag himself toward the beach. Each movement a battle against the venom rapidly spreading through his body. The race against time had begun, and Rob knew that his life was hanging in the balance. Rob's struggle to reach the shore was a battle against time, and the venom coursing through his body. Every inch he moved felt like a monumental effort, the pain in his leg intensifying with each attempt to drag himself out of the water. The stingray's venom spread quickly, causing his muscles to seize up and his vision to blur. The once peaceful bay, with its calm waters and serene surroundings, now felt like a hostile environment, and the shore seemed impossibly far away. The stingray, still agitated, lingered nearby, its presence adding to Rob's fear. He knew that another strike could be fatal, and he pushed himself to keep moving despite the pain and growing weakness. The water, now knee-deep, resisted his efforts to pull himself forward, but Rob's determination to survive was stronger. He focused on the distant shoreline, his only hope of safety, and forced himself to take one painful step after another. As Rob neared the shore, the effects of the venom became more pronounced. His leg was nearly numb, and his breathing became labored as the toxins spread through his bloodstream. He could feel his heart racing, each beat a reminder of the danger he was in. The world around him seemed to narrow, his vision tunneling as his strength waned. But the sight of the sandy beach just a few feet away kept him going, a lifeline amid his ordeal. Finally, after what felt like hours but had only been minutes, Rob's hands touched the sand. The relief of reaching solid ground was overwhelming, but he knew he wasn't safe yet. The venom was still active, and his condition was deteriorating rapidly. With the last of his strength, Rob pulled himself onto the beach, collapsing onto the warm sand. The pain was excruciating, but the sense of relief that he had made it out of the water was equally powerful. Rob lay on the beach, gasping for air, his body trembling from the effects of the venom. He knew he needed help, and quickly. Fortunately, Shark Bay, though remote, was a popular spot for fishermen and tourists, and it wasn't long before another fisherman spotted him and rushed to his aid. The man quickly assessed the situation, realizing the severity of Rob's injuries, and called for emergency services. An ambulance arrived as quickly as possible, and Rob was rushed to the nearest hospital in Denham, the closest town to Shark Bay. The medical team worked swiftly to administer antivenom and stabilize his condition. Rob's leg was severely swollen and badly injured, but thanks to the quick response, he survived the ordeal. The doctors informed him that the stingray's barb had narrowly missed a major artery, a stroke of luck that likely saved his life. In the weeks that followed, Rob faced a long and painful recovery. The physical injuries were significant, but the psychological impact of the attack was just as profound. The once familiar and comforting waters of Shark Bay now held a darker memory, a reminder of the hidden dangers that lurked beneath the surface. Rob's respect for the ocean, consistently strong, deepened even further, tempered by the knowledge of how close he had come to losing his life. Rob's experience became a cautionary tale among the local fishing community. It reminded them that even the most experienced fishermen were not immune to the dangers of the sea. The incident sparked discussions about safety and awareness, particularly in areas known for stingray activity. For Rob, the encounter with the stingray was a life-changing event that left him with a newfound appreciation for nature's unpredictability and the fragile balance between life and death in the wild.